Stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it! Touchdown Chargers! What a throw! 4 seconds left in the game, but this is likely the final play that matters. End zone wide open. What a night for Mike Williams. And the Chargers have their first lead of the night.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of ChargersCast. We are a fan-based podcast by fans for fans. I'm your host, Kirk Brewer. I've been a longtime Chargers fan, spanning over 4 decades now, and we are here to bring you a unique perspective on our beloved Los Angeles, former San Diego Chargers. We've got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to look back on week 2 on the matchup against the Carolina Panthers, and then look ahead to week 3 with our road matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers. With me again this week, and these guys are regulars here on ChargersCast, is Andrew Loya from BoltCasa and Brennan Isham from Chargers District. Appreciate you guys being here, hanging out with me. This is going to become a season thing, unless you guys have some scheduling conflicts. But I appreciate you guys being here, hanging out with me, talking ball, specifically talking Chargers ball. We are fortunate as Chargers fans. As we all know, it's an up and down ride being Chargers fans. And we are very fortunate to be sitting here in week 2. Second game of the Harbaugh era, and we are 2-0. We had our first road win against the Carolina Panthers. And while you can say, hey, they're not that talented of a roster, the reality is it's the NFL, and on any given Sunday, things can happen. So this wasn't a trap game. Harbaugh brought his boys down there prepared to play, and we got the W. So with that, what do you say we dive in and take a peek at this game? There's a lot to talk about there. But from a high level perspective, for me, it was what we thought it was. If you go back and look at last week's pod and kind of what our analysis should have been is how this game should have gone, pretty much went how we thought, right? Our Justin Fields, already looking forward. Chase Young, we kept him off balance. I feel sorry for the kid. We kept him off balance the whole game. He regressed even further to the point where he's been benched this week. Andy Dalton starting against the Raiders, play them this week, I think, week 3. And so Andy Dalton's going to be the starting quarterback. It's a pretty dominating performance on our part on all aspects of the game. Like I said, kind of was what we thought it would be. But let's drill down a little bit, because there's a lot of good to talk about the Chargers as they continue to come together under the new coaching staff and the new scheme. So either one of you guys, if you want to jump in and you got some analysis that you wanted to bring to the forefront, Brennan, I'll give you the floor if you've got something.
All righty. So my main thing of this game that I took out of it is it's a breath of fresh air that we won the game that we were supposed to win. I think that's a big thing with the new Harbaugh era. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the 2015 season, the Browns had 1 win, and it was against us. And that's happened many times, just like, I hate to bring it up, but the playoff game against the Jags. Personally, for me, I think it was very, very nice to get a good win that we were supposed to win, and it was a very dominant win.
Yeah, it looks like you might be having some internet issues still. So if you see that recount down, it means it's probably bringing you back into the recording. So let it finish counting down. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. We last year, we should have beat Tennessee, and we didn't win that game. I mean, it's the story of the Chargers, and as Andrew and I were chatting about, I think that's a huge reflection on coaching. It's almost entirely coaching, to be honest with you. When you don't win the games you're supposed to win, it's a lack of focus, lack of discipline. And we know this team's had a discipline issue. And I don't mean discipline like, punishing people. I mean discipline of doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. And in this new era, you can't even put the weights back on the weight rack misaligned. Otherwise, Ben Herbert's going to kick your ass, right? That's the level of discipline they have here, is pay attention to the little things, because the little things add up to the big things. And so they went in and they performed. Simple as that.
Yeah. 2 weeks in a row, J.K. Dobbins kicking butt on the ground. Chargers ran for 219 rushing yards. That's awesome. And then I think QJ tuned into the podcast and he was watching, he's watching ChargersCast, and he goes, I can't grab a contested catch, huh? Here's a big glass and shut the F up, Andrew. That was awesome with QJ, just like rise to the occasion, kick some butt. That was pretty cool. We did a lot of good things in that game. There were instances where, when there's two safeties, they're trying to get rid of the corners, big explosion plays. And that's where you got to take the small underneath routes, and Disley, Ladd, and QJ executed that flawlessly. We took good advantage of that situation, which is going to be another important thing when we get to the Steelers. Like, you got to take those easy plays, and we did that. We played sound football. And then one of the biggest compliments that I want to give and I want to point out from that game was Deion Henley. There was a screen to the strong side, and I don't know if it was Deontay Johnson, but regardless, they threw a screen to that side, and time after time again in these situations, Kenneth Murray would either freeze and get washed out of the play, or getting stuck to one side. And on this particular screen, Deion sat. He watched as the corners got blocked, and instead of reacting all crazy or forcing himself at a bad angle, he just shuffled his feet and then made a tackle for a short yardage play. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like that's what's like. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Kenneth Murray just like screw this up for us. And that's just how teams are constantly like thriving on us. Dan Henley just stayed in position, played good linebacker play. I was like, oh, so stoked about that. And then, Herbert doing what Herbert does. I think that in the beginning, the offense had a little shaky start to the rhythm, what it looked like at first. Because I'll go to say that I think that there were two possessions in the first half that could have been, we could have scored on. So this game could have been much worse than it was. And with that said, Brennan, you were there. So, when Herbert, I think Herbert's still trying to get used to this balanced team, because I think there was a little bit of him almost do I got to play a little hero ball here? And he kind of forced that window, throw in that window. You were at that game. You watching the guys on the field. What did that look like to you?
You couldn't have said that any better timing. I was actually gonna bring that up. So he does seem like he needs to get a little more in sync with his receivers and his tight ends. What I was watching on him, like you said, it was like he was trying to play hero ball. Honestly, I've never seen Herbert extend a play that long while being in the pocket for so long ever before. Usually he's just launching it out, but it was really seeming like he was trying to just get a quick pass off, and it really wasn't working, to be honest. There was one play, I don't know who dropped the pass, but he extended the play, was trying to play hero ball, and honestly, if it was Patrick Mahomes, it would be all over SportsCenter and NFL. It was one of the best throws he laid out, and he was contorted the other way, so it was super, super cool to see him do that, so he's still able to make those plays. But he's definitely trying to play hero ball, and I think he needs to make a little more get more in sync with his receivers. It looks like he's looks a little lost when he's looking down the field because they're either not getting open or he's not expecting on what they're going to do like he knows Keenan Allen would have done or Mike Williams. He's still trying to feel them out, and I think he's still a little lost in that process. And I think it's going to take a little time, but that's what I saw mainly when it came to Herbert and the offense on the field.
Yeah, and I noticed that too. There were a couple plays in particular in this game, 2, maybe 3, where he was really doing that Herbert of old, which is I got to put the team on my back and I got to extend the play, and there's guys draped over me all in the pocket. In fact, that's where the one fumble came from, right?
Yep.
It's like, knowing Harbaugh the way I know Harbaugh, I'm sure, and he idolizes Justin. So I'm sure it was a very productive conversation. But the conversation was, Justin, you no longer have to be that guy. Okay? Take the sack. We'll punt it away. And our defense will do what they do. We'll get the ball back, and then we'll run it down their throats again. And you pick your spots. You don't need to save every single play and every single drive like you had to in the past, because nobody else would do it if you didn't do it. There's just a couple plays still in these first 2 games where he let that side of him potentially run the risk of making a really stupid play. He had a couple of those in the Raider game too, where he did some funky thing over his back and like flipped it. And I think the receiver actually caught that one too. It was insane, but it's like, you don't have to do that. That could cost you a game. And so knowing Harbaugh the way I think I've gotten to know Harbaugh over the years from watching him from afar, that's not his recipe. His recipe isn't doing that crazy stuff. It's, lick your wounds, come back, fight another day, throw it out of bounds, come back for the next play. But other than that, I mean, that's probably, is there any other areas we can criticize the Chargers game this week? Other than Herbert, having a few plays like that? I think things were pretty steady Eddie. Our O-line was dominant, absolutely dominant. These tackles are going to be really fun to watch. I mean, these guys are good. They're like really good. You see that play where Clowney hands to the face to Alt, and Alt loses his helmet, and he's like, I don't need a helmet. You're still not touching my quarterback.
I'm a Midwest boy.
Yeah. It was a thing of beauty, man.
Yeah, I actually wanted to highlight something. I wanted to thank the Bolt fam. Honestly, for the first time ever, I saw more Charger fans than I did the opposing team. I know it's the Panthers, but being across the country, I didn't think there were going to be too many, but we definitely represented. So I wanted to say kudos to all of us, because there were a lot more Charger fans than I expected. And by the third quarter, the only thing you saw was that powder blue. So it was super cool to see.
That's sweet. And, Chargers fans, we get a lot of crap, especially being Southern California and, a lot of opposing fans being in our stadiums and things like that. But the Chargers have a pretty loyal fan base. They may not be crazy like some others and maybe don't travel as well, but the loyalty, I think, is deep. So that's good to hear. We were representing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's like going back to Herbert, it's like we now have a run game too to back you up. Like, it's going to be okay. And Hayden Hurst wasn't really effective in this game too. That was kind of another, Disley made the little amount that he got count. So if we could just get that balance with Hayden, I'm still waiting for the breakout performance with Hayden. So I'm hoping that comes in week 3.
Hayden Hurst blocked his ass off in this game.
Eric Tomlinson did not.
No.
He looked like a guy joined the team.
Yeah. But and I heard some quotes from Hurst about, I think he had one catch or something, but he literally was jacked after the game. Like he was ready to play a fifth quarter. He's like, you could just see their will just, going away at the end of the game, and they just didn't want to play anymore. And we just drained their will out of them. And I'm like, that's the quotes we heard when he first came over to the team. And while he wasn't catching balls left and right, he was in there, smacking them in the mouth. And I don't know how many, I didn't count them, how many alignments we had where we had, 6 linemen and a tight end. And then we had Matlock in the backfield. And we were just going full beast, mammoth, big, heavy package and just running the ball down their throat. Just road grader over these guys. It was a thing of beauty. It truly was a thing of beauty. It's coming to fruition, man. And JK, we were chatting a little bit about this pre-pod. Man, this kid looks really good. I don't think I've ever seen him. I didn't really see anything from his Ohio State days, but he's really good. When he's healthy, his vision, his lateral movement, his burst through the hole, his patience. That's one of the things, Austin would, bless Austin's heart, not trying to bash Austin, but Austin, a lot of times, and Melvin Gordon, I mean, we can go back to a bunch of running backs, just run right up the lineman's back, right? Just literally run right into our own lineman at the line of scrimmage. JK, he'll sit back, kind of like, what was his name? Le'Veon Bell, right? He'll sit back and he'll stop for a second and assess, be patient, and then hit the hole. And his burst is this kid is looking really good. He's looking like a steal. 2 weeks in a row, 130 plus yards. I believe he is the leading rusher in the NFL.
266 yards, leading rusher.
Yeah, and first running back since LaDainian Tomlinson to have 130 yards back-to-back games, which is crazy, but true. So hats off to JK. We're looking forward to more and more of that for sure, because that's going to keep Justin upright as well as having a strong running game. And time of possession, we can go through a bunch of stats. Our time of possession's way up because of this running game, which is keeping the opposing offenses off the field. There's so many good things that they've done in these first 2 weeks between the offense and the defense. Yeah, I mean, where do we start? The defense played like they've been playing. They were dominant on short yardage. They set the tone. They were opportunistic when they needed to be. Our edge, poor Bryce Young, poor kid. What did he throw for? 69 yards on 26 attempts. Just something abysmal. Yeah, got himself benched. It's the NFL, though. You got to play with the big boys.
Yeah, this might be a really big hot take because it's 2 games into his career, but I can name about 3 to 4 quarterbacks that have previously been on Carolina that are currently killing it or killed it after leaving Carolina. So to be honest, even with the new young coach, I think he's still going to be good. I know it's a Chargers podcast, but just quick touch on him. I think he's going to be really good. The Panthers franchise, in my opinion, still has a long ways to go. Just look at Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. They're killing it. They are like 2 of the best quarterbacks out of week 1 and 2 right now. So I hope Bryce Young gets it put together. I thought he was really good in college, and it's only a matter of time until he gets it put all together. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise for him to sit behind, because really 2 really rough defenses to go to back-to-back weeks 1 and 2. You have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and Derwin James down your throats as a rookie in your second ever game. Very, very hard to succeed in that. So
Well, I hope you're right. I hope he does at some point find some success. But he did play last year, and that was not good. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Frank Reich fired, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. After a couple games, they fired Frank Reich.
But he's in the probably the worst situation. The worst organization. So it's tough.
Yeah.
He may need to go someplace else.
Yeah, so we'll see if it works out somewhere else. But yeah, I don't have too much more to add to this game, guys. I think that we showed up, like we said, and we took care of business, and that's what needed to happen, because the way that the schedule is working out, we just got to keep chipping away, and we took care of business, and it's on to this challenge, which this next challenge is going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just looking at my notes here. Our defense is ranking in the top in a lot of statistics. Our offense is ranking in the top with a lot of statistics, passing game being an exception to that. I think we're kind of middle of the road as far as our passing defense, and passing offense, to be honest with you. We're not lighting it up, but we're being efficient in the passing game. It was a solid all-around performance. I think if you went back and watched last week's podcast, it pretty much played out the way we expected it to, minus, I will put it on record, minus the safety. The safety did not come to fruition. We did not get a safety against these guys, but if we had them pinned up against their goal line, it was pretty high probability we were going to get it. Our D-line is playing lights out right now, all the way across, interior, exterior. And then the only thing I got to say, we are dominating in the trenches, which is Harbaugh 101, both sides of the ball. We're dominating in the trenches, and the scary part is it's early in the season. We stay healthy, these guys are going to get even better. I mean, you go watch the line play, just focus on the line play. These guys are looking really good on both sides of the ball. So that can get scary. And I think that's a great segue to week 3, because now we're going up against a not identical, but comparable philosophy in an NFC North team of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their formula tends to be dominate the line of scrimmage, play physical, and wear your opponent down. And so this is really good timing for this game. I think it's great timing. And I think Harbaugh said it. It's like, hey, let's go find out who we are, right? Now we get to play a team that was a playoff team last year. I think they played it smart, staying in Charlotte and not traveling back to the West Coast and then traveling to Pennsylvania. Now they're going to take, probably an hour and a half, 2-hour flight from Charlotte up to Pennsylvania. Keep that jet lag off their bodies, stay on East Coast time. Should play well for them from that perspective. What are you guys looking at heading into this game? What are the key elements that you guys are looking for on this?
It's all you, my man.
All right. I'll just talk about some things here. TJ Watt, and Joe Alt. I think unlike the Raiders, the Pittsburgh's defense is a little more straightforward. I don't see them, and I haven't seen them mix up like the stunts like the Raiders did with bringing Max inside, going to the other side. I think they're going to gladly keep him on Joe Alt and just keep him coming. And if he does like this one, if he doesn't have the success he has had, so be it. TJ's historically looking great, not just like a present day great player. Like TJ is an animal, a mutant, if you want to say. So whatever happens, it's going to happen. But I do have faith that Joe Alt's going to play some good football. At this point, he's done a great job. He gave Clowney his worst career game to date so far. So that's
11 seasons. Yeah.
And then on the other side, we got Joey. And Joey's going to be facing off against Troy Futanu, the first rounder from Washington, who's he's looking like a great tackle right now. So that'll be a good matchup for Joey. We got 2 sacks in our last game, and it's funny because we went each team last time got 4-4, and the Steelers got 2 sacks their last game. We got 2 sacks our last game. So I think one of the biggest things is we got to keep Fields in the pocket. Let's let, how we're going to beat them is, Fields, you're going to have to throw it on us. But, try to contain him. Let's not let him break contain and let him throw the ball against us. And they have good defensive players on each sector of the defense. Minka, they got the Cameron Hayward, and then Joey Porter Jr., Patrick Queen. They got good guys on each layer of the defense to come and get us. And they want to control the clock. We want to run similar types of football games. They will gladly keep that football out of Justin Herbert's hands, and they will do that if we let them. So another big aspect of this game is we got to be creative and create turnovers. We need the guys to make stuff happen because they got a great run game. They got a 2-headed monster, just like us. They're good. And they got a deep threat with Pickens. So that's kind of that's how I see it. So there's a lot of things that we could do to win this game. It'd be nice if Hayden Hurst got out there and had a little bit of a breakout game. And then, just like the last game, take those easy completions, Herbert, and let's hope the run game can. That would be awesome if it was week 3 of J.K. Dobbins kicking butt. But even if it's a little less, this is a really good test and a really good defense. So, yeah, that's some of the big things that I see from this game.
Yeah. I think the teams on paper and philosophically, they're very similar. What they want to do and how they want to go about doing it, and then there's a lot of familiarity, between some of the players we have on our roster, our general manager. All these guys came from we've got a lot of folks from Baltimore on our team that are very familiar with Pittsburgh, having played in that same division. And so there's more familiarity, I think, on the roster and the staff today than there was last season. And so it's going to be a really interesting matchup. I don't think there's going to be a lot of margin for error for mistakes. Justin trying to play hero ball and maybe have a stupid interception instead of just taking the sack or throwing it out and coming back on the next play. So those are things we'll definitely want to keep our eye on. What are you seeing, Brennan?
So one thing I have to say is, Justin Herbert did not practice today. His MRI or the X-ray or MRIs, whichever, I think it was X-rays, they came out negative. He did not practice. Harbaugh, you know him. He's been like this since every time he's coaching. He always responds with, pretty much saying that he's not a doctor and he can't touch on this subject. And he pretty much gives us no updates on it. But he said Herbert's feeling good. But with that being said, he did come out and say if Herbert cannot play, we will be starting Easton Stick. So with that being said, that is a possibility that can happen. So I just want to put that out there. If that happens, I think everything goes out the window. I just am not a big fan of Easton Stick, and I don't think our other counterparts and our other weapons are going to be able to do anything with zero momentum that he's going to be creating. But with that being said, pretty much everything Andrew said I agree with. I'm really excited for that TJ Watt, Joe Alt, and the Joey Bosa, Troy Fautanu. I'm very excited about those matchups. I'm excited to see what our wide receivers can do against Minka and Deshaun Elliott and Joey Porter Jr. It's going to be pretty interesting to see. It's always a barn burner when we play the Steelers. Either they come back or we come back. It's always by 3-point margin. So it's going to be a very exciting game in my opinion. But I do think the margin of error has to be little to none to beat these guys. Because if we know anything about the Steelers, historically, since Mike Tomlin's been coaching, they are the most consistent winning team. They haven't had a losing season since he's been a coach. And they always find a way to win. always. So I think we have to have 0 errors. Herbert cannot have those hero ball moments and it go wrong. We need to hold on to the ball quick, and think the defense has been steamrolling, so I think they just have to keep up what they're doing, and I think it'll be a pretty good game for us.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about Justin not playing in this game. I think literally he'd have to be hospitalized or something to probably not play in this game. It sounds like he's good to go. They're just resting him to make sure. He probably got a bruise or some bone bruise or something.
It is on that right ankle, the same one with the plantar fasciitis. So that's the only thing that is worrying people, is that he re-irritated that, because at the beginning of the offseason they did say that is an injury that's really re-injurable, and I'm pretty sure that happened to Antonio Gates during the season and he was out the whole season. So just hoping he doesn't try to become a hero to play this game and just make it worse.
Well, the thing I'll say, you're 100% right. If it's an actual plantar fasciitis injury, those are rough. And yeah, it screwed Gatesy up. I want to say it was Kevin Maue who caused that injury on Gates too. From that point forward, I never liked Maue. I was in the Tennessee game and Gates was on the ground and all he had to do was touch him down, and instead he pounced on him, and Gates was all. It was a dirty play, and ruined Gates' season for the most part. What Justin didn't say specifically, but he intimated as he came back and started practicing, getting ready for the start of the season, was he didn't actually have a plantar fasciitis injury. It was an injury that affected his plantar fasciitis, but it wasn't. He didn't actually injure that part. It was around there that caused pain there. And so, knock on wood, that it's similar but unrelated, and it wasn't actually the plantar fasciitis that was injured, because that could linger all season if it truly was his plantar fasciitis. And I believe he just got rolled up on it. In fact, I think it was that play we were talking about where he's hero balling and had the fumble and he got rolled up on. And so I think it was a little higher up, kind of in the calf/shin area versus down on the foot. But, you just never know. I mean, even for all of the roughness that they've taken out of football these days, it's still a physical game, and so there's going to be injuries and bumps and bruises. And if Justin isn't playing and Easton does get the start, like Jim said, we're going to be one-dimensional. And even as good as our offensive line is playing, when they know you're going to run the ball every play, it makes it really, really difficult. You at least have to have the threat of the pass, especially with somebody who's capable as Justin is. So if we have Easton in there, that wouldn't be pretty. And I'm curious, Taylor, if you're watching the pod, how's it coming, brother? We need you to be ready to be number 2, like ASAP. So hopefully things are coming along good, and you're learning that playbook, and you're getting ready to supplant Easton soon. So that would be good. Yeah, who's not looking forward to the Joe Alt, TJ Watt battle in this game? I mean, are you serious? And what's awesome is the fact that we're talking about a tackle and a D end as like the highlight of what we're going to be looking at in the game. That's awesome. And I believe we'll see how their O-line plays, but I believe we have the edge when it comes to our D-line matching up against their O-line. And Justin Fields is still Justin Fields.
Yeah, how do you guys feel about
Bryce Young? Right? I mean, he's a little more advanced than Bryce Young, but we can get that guy. If we can get that guy flustered and we can get his internal clock sped up because our boys are constantly on him, turnovers will come. The turnovers will come. He'll throw a ball up or two and we'll get it.
Yeah. When I think about the chess match in this game, like I'm going to hope that Justin does come out and play. But if I'm the Steelers, I'm looking at that going, pack the box, make Justin throw. We know who his weapons are. Let's try to force them to do that as much as we can. That way we can control the clock. They want us to kind of throw and capitalize on whatever is going on with Justin's foot. But let's just hope, Justin's got the toughness to push through that situation. But how do you guys feel about Justin Fields as a quarterback? I've never really been too high on him as a quarterback. I've really critiqued his just the way that he throws the ball, like makes reads and throws. I think he makes the occasional good throw, but I've never really thought of him as like a top tier. Never had him in my top 10 as one of those quarterbacks. So how do you guys feel about him as a quarterback?
Based off of week 1 and 2 of the 2024 NFL season, he's done pretty good. There was 2 throws that I watched last game that were really impressive. It was a back shoulder to Darnell Washington in the end zone, and then there was one to George Pickens. I am not trying to hype him up too much, but it was probably one of the best throws I've ever seen, like, from me watching live. It was very, very, it was a really good pass. I think he, being on the Steelers and having more weapons, I think he's really became a better quarterback this season. But like I said, that's based off weeks 1 and 2. I'd rather have him start than Russell Wilson, because I do think, like Kirk said, I think he's going to give us a couple balls, a couple turnovers that we're going to be able to capitalize on. At the end of the day, he is still Justin Fields. I don't know if he progressed that well to beat us in the offseason, especially since he did think he was going to be QB2. So, that's kind of what I think about it. I think he's an overall good quarterback. He's got him to 2-0, but I think he still has a lot of holes that we can capitalize on compared to Russell Wilson.
Yeah. The things I would add to that, I think you guys are both right on, and I kind of intimated about it as well, which, I don't think he's in as bad a situation as Bryce Young is, but, he is still Justin Fields. He's still a young quarterback. He's still unproven. If our defensive line is speeding up his internal clock, getting him off schedule, that's going to be very good for us. And what you were talking about, Andrew, is basically that'd probably be their game plan for us too, is stack the box, blitz the crap out of Justin like the Raiders did, and get him off his schedule. But Justin's a little more seasoned, a little more savvy, a little bigger. Justin's got a few other things. Oh, by the way, he's got Slater on one side and Alt on the other side. Justin's got a few other things to work with to help mitigate that I don't think Fields has. And then the only other thing I'll say is, where did he just come from? He came from Kyle Shanahan's system, right? If you can't succeed, if you can't beat out Mr. Irrelevant and Jimmy Garoppolo, and you're a number 1 pick, and you drop to the 3rd, and then they offload you, right? He came from San Francisco.
That was Trey Lance.
Trey Lance. Okay, apologize. He's in Dallas. Justin came from.
You're good. Chicago. You're good.
Yeah, he came from Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't do a whole lot of Chicago either.
Brandon,
at least I can't fault him for being under Kyle Shanahan and failing.
Yeah, I looked at him and I was like, wait.
Yeah, you're giving me side-eye there. These new young guys, they're all running quarterbacks, and it's like, which one's who?
You just lost the guy who hurt Gates. Like, you've got a lot up there, man. It's all good.
Yeah. Just like earlier, I was saying Bryce Young was a rookie, and he's definitely.
Who did he have in Chicago coaching him? He really didn't have much.
Whoever that guy is.
Yeah, Eberflus, I think was the guy. So he's an unproven commodity at best, is what I would say. And I think our defense can affect his game much more than I think their defense can affect Justin's game. We'll have to kind of see it play out. But I suspect if Pittsburgh's stacking the box against us, that's where Harbaugh's going to go, or G-Row's going to go. All right, great. We'll go with 6 offensive linemen, 2 tight end sets, if not 3 tight end sets. And then, oh, by the way, we'll have Scott Matlock playing fullback. And let's see how much more you can stack that box. Because all of a sudden, now you're going to be getting rid of DBs to bring in more linebackers because they can't, just body weight. They can't match up. And then Justin will hopefully be able to throw over them. It'll be a good cat and mouse game. That's for sure.
Let's see who can do it better on every aspect, like running the ball, throwing the ball, everything. Like, let's just see who can do it better. And I just love the matchup in week 3. Like I brought up last week, just the way that everything is lining up to the Chiefs game. It's like the perfect test. Like, we had what proved to be a good game with the Raiders. Now that we know how they're playing and what they look like, I didn't really see that when I was just kind of judging them in the offseason. And then you go take care of business in Carolina. Did that. Let's rise to the occasion in Pittsburgh. We got a stout team. Let's do it again. This is like the perfect building block, because if we can do this and win, man, I feel really good about our chances going in. There's momentum, everything going into week 4. So
yeah, week 4 home game KC, right?
KC, Harbaugh, Andy Reid, baby. So yeah.
Harbaugh's got a formula, man. G-Row's got a formula. This is going to be a game that is going to be won or lost in the trenches, just short of, some catastrophic mistake someplace else on the field. But it's going to be won in the trenches. And Harbaugh's been building this team to dominate in the trenches. And so this is great timing for this. We've had 2 weeks where we've got to get our sea legs under us and kind of start feeling out who we are. And now we get a test, and it's like I've always said, it's like if we want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And so I would hate for Mahomes to get injured and then we win the AFC West. No, I want to beat Mahomes at his best. If we're going to win the AFC West, I want to beat the guy at his best. And so you got to work up to that. And this is great timing, like we've said. This is great timing in the evolution of this new physical Chargers team. And so we're going to get tested. It's a good season that we're playing the AFC North as the new Harbaugh era starts out. We're going to have Baltimore, Cincy, which, looks like they're still trying to get their stride. The Browns, they had a pretty good week. So it'll be interesting to see. But, yeah, Alton Slater against their defense. And can our offensive line make holes for Gus and JK? I think it's really what this game comes down to. It's really not any more difficult than that.
And we need this game. We're both undefeated. We're both 2-0.
Yeah.
Raiders just got their win. When you think about the playoff picture and how we talked about every game matters, we need this. Let's go get this. Because, we don't know what's going to happen going forward, but when you look at the Steelers, them being 2-0, there's a good chance they're going to play some good football this year as the season goes on. So this is such an important game. We get that W. Really helps our chances in the playoffs.
Well, and potential tiebreakers and things like that, right? If they're going to potentially end up being a playoff team too, getting it early in the season, you just don't know when that one will come back to bite you if you let it slip away like past Chargers teams and coaching staffs might do. So if you can win it, and we haven't talked a lot about this, but I heard one of the players talking about it. I think it was after the Raiders game about, you guys have heard about in training camp where they were doing these after all the practice was over. They had this fourth quarter extra practice that went on for another 15 to 30 minutes. And it varied what exercise or practice that they did, but they had this whole extra session to push the team and build that extra stamina. And I've already been hearing a little bit coming out from the players that's already making a difference in their stamina. So if I were, I think we'll win the game unless we make a catastrophic mistake. And I think come mid fourth quarter is where we're going to win it. It's going to be a tight game all the way through. It's not going to be 42-40 or anything. I think we're going to wear them down. And I think we're going to wear them down on both sides of the ball. And they'll just fade that little. It's still early in the season, right? So if they're not as conditioned as good as we are, that little bit may actually make the difference where we end up eking that game out, by ever so slightly, even though I don't think it's going to be a field goal game. I do think JK can get another 100 plus. I don't know if he'll put 130 up, but I think he can get into triple digits again. I'm hopeful anyway that our offensive line can spring him and get him over 100 yards for 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game. I think this is going to be a big test for our offense. They got one of the best defenses in the league. I think TJ Watt is probably the best edge in the league right now. That's personal opinion, but that's what I think. He's a monster on the field. So it's going to be a really big test for us if we can go out and show that we can really bring it to him, not only on defense, but on offense too. I think it's going to be good for us. Good win. I don't want to be like bearer of bad news, but there is a very good chance that we can start the season 2-2 after having a really good 2-0 start of the season, because we play the Steelers, who are always consistent, and then we played the two-time reigning Super Bowl champions, the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So, like Andrew said, this is a really, really needed win. In my opinion, I think this win can bite us in the butt later on. So if we get this win, I think it's going to be, number one, show who we are, and then number two, it's going to be, I think, beneficial for us later on in the season.
Yeah. I hate to think about being 2-2 in 2 weeks. Is it possible? Yeah, any given Sunday, and you guys will get tired of hearing me say that, but it's just the reality of the NFL. The other team's getting paid too, and weird things happen. But good coaching typically mitigates most of those weird things happening, and the few things that do typically don't end up costing you the game. I mean, the Patriots wouldn't have all the trophies they had if they couldn't overcome minor mistakes and eke out a game by 3 points. How many of their Super Bowls were won by a field goal? Like half of them? I mean, so is it that ever so small margin of error? And I think Harbaugh's got his boys. I think they're playing a lot better than they were that first half of that Raider game. And I think we'll continue to see improvement. We'll continue to see our lines improve and become more and more dominant. This is going to be an awesome, awesome test for us. And I agree. We much rather be 3-0 than 2-1 heading into any game against KC. That's for sure. Home or away.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet too that the playbook will open up just a little bit more, and I think some of that is by design. Also, not to mention, the run game has been kicking butt, of course, but I think that this is by design. I think Giro's like, you don't know what we got hidden for you, because I think we're going to see a little bit more in this game, and then I know that we got some stuff for KC lined up. Whether that's it's going to include all the guys. McConkey's going to have his stuff. We're going to do some stuff with QJ, Palmer. But I think that's going to open up for sure, because we're going to have to in this game. And, Herbert's a tough dude. So regardless of what's going on with his leg, which we don't know, I have all the faith in the world in this kid. He is, he embodies a winner, in my opinion. He's a tough guy. I think he's going to lead us to a victory. So yeah, that's all I really got going for the Steelers matchup. Who won the last prediction? I think Brennan was the closest, right? Do you recall?
I think it was. So The score for us, I think I said 28 and we scored 26, so that was really close. But I predicted they were going to score 2 touchdowns, but they only scored 3 points. So pretty sure I said 28-14. So close on our end, but not close on their end.
Yeah, I think, Brennan, you had it on the Chargers score, and Andrew, you had it on the Panthers score. I think you said Panthers were going to get 3 field goals, and they only got 1. And I chose to go in between you guys on both, and wasn't in the running on either. So
should we give you
what's that?
Should we give you the first prediction for this one?
Sure, I'll take it. Age before beauty. But one last point I would make is, you guys noticed they had a couple designed runs for Justin last week. You guys remember, I don't know if it was the last game we played against Pittsburgh, but Justin beat him with his legs big time.
90 yards.
Big time. And so now all of a sudden, it wasn't just a running game or a passing game. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, crap, we got to defend a mobile quarterback. And so as long as Justin's not like really injured, I suspect they're going to have a few designed runs for him this week too, just to keep that defense honest, keep somebody spying Justin and making sure that they can't just tee off on one area or the other. It's amazing what just a couple quarterback runs can do to a defense and freeze a linebacker, freeze a safety, freeze an edge, just that other split second to pop a JK out on a long run, or, free up that tight end who's releasing off the line instead of blocking. And I think this would be an ideal game for Hayden Hurst to have a little breakout, maybe come out with, 5 or 6 receptions for 80, 90 yards and a touch. So it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be a chess match. All right. So I believe Chargers is going to win this game. And I don't believe it's going to be a field goal, as the clock runs out. I really do believe we'll wear them down as the game goes on. Come mid-fourth quarter, while it might be tight heading into the fourth quarter, I think we'll wear them down, and we'll start to separate ourselves in that fourth quarter. And I'm looking at 20-13. I think we got 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals in us, and I think they probably got 1 touchdown, a couple field goals in them.
All right, I'll go. I'll take a Chargers victory, 21-27. Should be some field goals.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a huge defensive game. So I'm going to say Chargers win 17-14.
17-14. I was thinking it could be that tight. But I really do believe we are out conditioned. We will prove our conditioning early in the season and wear them down. Hayden was talking about Carolina last week, wearing them down. Pittsburgh's a different animal, granted, but it'll be fun. It's going to be a fun game to watch. Great time of the season to watch it. All right, gentlemen. Any last words? Any other Chargers related topics besides the Carolina victory and the game against Pittsburgh coming up? Any other news, notes, any other little tidbits? I heard an interesting tidbit Daniel Popper brought up. Justin Herbert, if you remember his rookie season, this is an interesting stat. I don't know how relevant it is, but it's interesting. He didn't start week 1 of his rookie season. Week 2, that's when, what's his name? I always mispronounce his name. Who was our starting quarterback? Tyrod Taylor. I think it's Tyrod, but remember he had some pain in his ribs, and they did a pain injection and ended up puncturing his lung, and Justin got the start like 30 minutes before the game against KC. Justin threw for more yards in that KC game than he's thrown the first 2 weeks of this season. we're 2-0.
Yeah.
Just goes to show you, it's not about stats. The only stat that matters, wins and losses. So there's an interesting tidbit stat for you, courtesy of Daniel Popper. I'd heard that out there on Instagram somewhere, I believe it was. So any other little tidbits before we wrap up this week?
I got nothing. Let's get the W.
All right, guys. Well, I think we know where all of us diehard Chargers fans are going to be. And, of course, that's glued to the TV watching this game. This is going to be a fun one. I can't remember the last time I didn't get pumped for Steelers Chargers. Those have always been good games. Man, I remember Jamal Williams just dominating those games, man. He just owned that interior line for years back in those games against Roethlisberger. But looking forward to it, guys. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. That's it. Let's wrap her up. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys hanging out. If you haven't already done so, do me a favor, go down below, leave us a comment, even if it's just, one sentence. Hey, hi, let us know if you like it. If you don't like it, you can leave a comment too, letting us know you don't like the podcast, and, maybe let us know where we could, help improve the podcast. But go down below, leave us a comment, give us a like, definitely subscribe, because that way when the new podcast drop, you guys should get notification that a new podcast has dropped. Lets us know that this thing's worthwhile, and keep coming back for more. So that's it for this episode of ChargersCast. And me, along with Andrew and Brennan, we will catch you guys next week after the Steelers game. And we'll go over all the good, the bad, the ugly. Hopefully not too much ugly in that game, at least not on the Chargers' part. And we'll do it all again. So have a good week. Go Bolts.
Herbert stops, launches deep. Jalen Guyton, he's got it! Touchdown Chargers! What a throw! 4 seconds left in the game, but this is likely the final play that matters. End zone wide open. What a night for Mike Williams. And the Chargers have their first lead